Welcome back to another exciting episode of Decentralized Application Development Crashcasts. I'm Sheila, and as always, I'm joined by my knowledgeable co-host, Victor. Before we dive in, I'd like to remind our listeners to rate our podcast on whatever platform you're tuning in from. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more developers like you. Today, we're continuing our journey through Chapter 5, Networking in P2P Systems, and we'll be exploring the eDonkey network. But first, let's start with a little quiz question for our listeners. What year was the eDonkey network first released, and why was it considered revolutionary at the time?
That's an intriguing question, Sheila. It really takes us back to the early days of peer-to-peer file sharing. I'm curious to see if our listeners can pinpoint not just the year, but also understand why eDonkey was such a game-changer. It's a great way to set the stage for our discussion today.
Absolutely, Victor. Before we delve deeper, could you give our listeners a quick overview of what the eDonkey network is?
Certainly. The eDonkey network, often called ED2K, was a peer-to-peer file-sharing network developed in 2000. It was designed to facilitate the sharing of large files among users across the Internet. What made eDonkey unique was its hybrid approach, combining elements of both centralized and decentralized systems.
That's interesting. So it wasn't fully decentralized like some other P2P networks we've discussed. How did that work?
You're right, Sheila. eDonkey used a semi-centralized model. It had central servers that helped coordinate file searches and connected peers, but the actual file transfers occurred directly between users. This approach aimed to combine the efficiency of centralized systems with the robustness of decentralized networks.
I see. So, if I understand correctly, it's like a library system where the central server is the card catalogue, helping you find books, but the actual book exchange happens between library patrons. Is that a fair analogy?
That's an excellent analogy, Sheila. The central servers in eDonkey, like library catalogues, maintained lists of files and which users had them. Users would query these servers to find files, much like you'd look up a book in a library catalogue. Once a user found the file they wanted, they'd connect directly to other users who had that file to download it, similar to borrowing a book directly from another patron.
Thanks for validating my understanding, Victor. Now, could you explain how file sharing actually worked in the eDonkey network?
Of course, file sharing in eDonkey was based on a distributed hash table system, or DHT. A DHT is like a giant decentralized address book for files. Each file was split into smaller parts, and each part was given a unique identifier, called a hash. This allowed users to download different parts of the same file from multiple sources simultaneously, significantly speeding up downloads for large files.
That sounds efficient. But I'm curious, how did eDonkey ensure that all these file parts were correct and came together properly?
Great question. eDonkey used a clever system of file hashes to verify integrity. Think of it like a puzzle. When a file was added to the network, a unique picture of the completed puzzle was created. This picture, or hash, acted as a unique identifier for the file. When downloading, the client would check each puzzle piece against this picture, ensuring that all parts were correct and belonged to the same file.
I see. It seems like eDonkey introduced some pretty advanced concepts for its time. Were there any other notable features that set it apart from other P2P networks?
Absolutely. One of the most significant advancements was the integration of the CAD network. CAD was a true peer-to-peer network based on the Kademlia distributed hash table. Kademlia is a way of organizing a network that makes it really efficient to find data. This integration allowed eDonkey to function without central servers, making it more resilient to shutdowns and legal challenges.
That's fascinating. Speaking of legal challenges, I've heard that eDonkey faced some issues. Could you tell us more about that?
You're right, Sheila. Like many file-sharing networks, eDonkey faced significant legal pressure, especially from the music and film industries. In fact, here's an interesting bit of trivia. In 2006, the company behind eDonkey agreed to pay $30 million to settle a lawsuit and shut down its servers. However, the protocol lived on through open-source clients and the CAD network.
Wow, that's quite a story. It really highlights the challenges faced by P2P networks. Now, as we wrap up, could you summarize the key points about the eDonkey network for our listeners?
Certainly. To recap, point 1, eDonkey was a semi-centralized P2P network using central servers for file indexing but direct peer connections for transfers. Point 2, it introduced multi-source downloading, allowing users to download file parts from multiple peers simultaneously. 3, the network used a distributed hash table system for efficient file tracking and integrity verification. 4, eDonkey later integrated the CAD network, moving towards full decentralization. 5, despite legal challenges, the technology behind eDonkey significantly influenced modern P2P systems.
Thank you, Victor. That's a great summary. Now, let's reveal the answer to our quiz question. The eDonkey network was first released in 2000, and it was revolutionary because it introduced multi-source downloading and efficient handling of large files, which were significant improvements over earlier P2P networks like Napster. Before we sign off, I'd like to remind our listeners to visit crashcasts.com, join our Discord community, and if you're enjoying the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps us continue creating this content for you. Until next time, happy coding.